it's Opie, and welcome back to the channel where I really don't know what I'm doing. Today's video is going to be a little different than what I normally post. It's going to be a little more personal to what I love and what I care about in my life, and it's going to be me sharing a little bit of knowledge with you. So today we're going to be talking about witchcraft. I don't really talk about my practice all too often, but a lot of my more spiritual friends were asking me to start a series and to talk about some info on witchcraft. I've been practicing witchcraft for 2 or 3 years now, and I'm still learning everything, so I'm not at all claiming to be an expert on any of this. I am learning just as everyone else is, and learning is always an amazing thing to keep pursuing and keep doing. I am just sharing the knowledge that I have in hopes that it'll reach someone who is interested in starting their spiritual journey or who is wanting to learn more about witchcraft. Today we're going to be starting about a topic that is also important for those who aren't interested in spirituality, and that is, what is a witch? As a witch, I define the word witch as someone who's in tune with the spiritual energy of the earth and with their own energy. A lot of people will define this differently, so every person you ask may have a different definition. My definition may not be the same as yours, but that's okay. Everyone will have their own interpretation of the word. By the way, witchcraft is not a religion like a lot of people seem to think it is. It's a practice, actually. Some witches do follow designated religion. There are Christian witches, there are Buddhist witches, there are so many other types of witches who do follow a religious path, and there are some that don't. So witchcraft is completely and totally able to make your own. Witchcraft is a non-exclusive practice, and absolutely anyone is welcome, as long as you're able to learn and keep growing. Many people seem to have this idea that witches are bad, and that their only goal is to harm. Most witches don't really have harm as one of their main goals. A good portion of us are actually centered around helping and healing. I think the idea of being demonic or evil came from representation in modern media, which we all know can be kind of incorrect sometimes. Witches don't wear the big pointy hats you see and have the long crooked noses with warts on them, but that is quite a funny caricature. Witches don't worship the devil, and we don't sacrifice children or animals to whatever you think we may do. These preconceived notions can be quite harmful to witches and to those who are looking to start their own spiritual journey, because it can deter them from looking in further because they think it is bad or wrong. Not every witch is on the same path of life, however. Some are centered around ancestors, some are centered around healing, some are centered around the kitchen, some are centered around deities, and all of these witches are different. Some people categorize these witches into different types. Having a type that you categorize yourself in is not necessarily a requirement. It can help some people to figure out where they want to start on their path, and it can hinder some others. So I'm going to be talking about just a few of the more popular ones, and if any of them stick out to you, if any of them speak to you, then I suggest doing a bunch more research on it and seeing where you want to start. If none of these types stick out to you, I'd still encourage doing some research and seeing where you want to start and how you want to kind of go about things. We're going to start off by talking about kind of the more well-known type of witch, and that is the ceremonial witch. A lot of people kind of already think of this when they hear the word witch, just because this is kind of the more represented one in modern media and in pop culture. This type of witch focuses on spells, rituals, castings, anything like that. More often than not, this is the type of witch that has a stereotypical altar set up and a circle to cast their spells and rituals. These are also the witches who may use ritual tools, like candles, athames, chalices, crystal balls, anything like that. Some ceremonial witches like to use the planets, celestial bodies, anything like that, so like the sun, the moon, stars, things like this, to complete their work. I believe that ceremonial witchcraft is probably one of the hardest paths to embark on, just because it requires so much pre-planning and a lot of dedication to your craft. A downside to ceremonial witchcraft that I found is that because it's kind of more of the older paths, it's deep-rooted in a lot of quote-unquote traditional values, and so there's kind of a lot of sexism that goes into it and quite a bit of closed-minded thinking. A lot of practitioners that are following this path are trying to break down these virtues and are trying to make it more of an accessible path for everyone. Next, we're going to talk about green witches. Green witches, as the name implies, are very earthy. These witches feel a deep connection to the earth and the beings that come from it. Green witches are herbalists, they're naturalists, they're healers. They use plants and things the earth gives them to help those who need it. Of course, not all green witches are healers. Some are more in tune with the energy of the earth and tend to use that in their spiritual workings. Green witches are kind of also more known just because it's the stereotypical witch aesthetic that you see whenever you search it up on like Google or something. My cat has joined us, everyone. I don't know if you know. Hi! Next, we're going to be talking about kitchen witches. Kitchen witches are, as the name implies, those that stay in the kitchen and complete their spells and witchcraft there. These witches also often have an extensive knowledge of herbs and their meanings. Without realizing, a lot of people have actually come across kitchen witches. Things like grandma's homemade cooking infused with love is a great example of this. It always feels better to eat something made from grandma with love than it is to eat the exact same meal from a fast food restaurant. I find kitchen witchery to be awesome and very relaxing just because it's almost meditative the way that you can carry out a recipe while also infusing it with positivity and happiness. Lastly, we're going to be talking about eclectic witches. This is the path that I categorize myself as being on if I had to choose a type of witch. Eclectic witches don't necessarily follow one particular path. They kind of pick and choose from each type of witchcraft that they can find. Often this means that traditions can be altered to fit whatever the practitioner needs them to be. Each person who is an eclectic witch might have a completely different ritual or tradition than another eclectic witch. Often this can be referred to as eclectic Wicca, which Wicca is in itself a religion, but witchcraft is not a religion. As we circle back to what I said in the beginning. You do not have to be Wiccan to be an eclectic witch, however. Witchcraft in itself is a practice that has no set rules, meaning that each person who practices it can set their own morals and their own designated meanings to things. Each path or type of witch that I have talked about today is unique from another in its own respect. Again, these are not all of the types of witches. There are many, many more. These are just some of the most popular ones that I've found. Again, I do strongly encourage you doing your own research if any of these paths stuck out to you or seemed special in any way. I'll link a couple of resources down below to where I got some of my resources, and I'll also link a couple different YouTube channels to watch if you're interested. One of my favorites is Harmony Nice, which I think a lot of people talk about her often, but she is just an amazing soul and I love her videos. If you guys want me to talk about any other witchy topics, then you should totally leave it down in the comments below. I'm really enjoying these sit-down videos that I've been doing, and hopefully I'll get to do a couple more of them if this becomes a series. I hope you all really enjoyed this video, even if it's not something you'd typically be interested in, and I'll see y'all next week. Signing off.